Hi, today we're talking about kids and pets. I'm with Nicole Forsyth from RedRover, an animal welfare organization, and I'm with Alex Liu, the creator of a new game called Dogs Bond. Together, they've partnered with a new back-to-school campaign, which gives kids an opportunity to learn about animals while reconnecting with their classmates in positive ways. Nicole, welcome. You're the president and CEO of RedRover. It's such an amazing animal welfare organization. Can you tell us about it?
RedRover is designed to help when people and animals are in crisis, and we also work to strengthen the human-animal bond. And we do that through a variety of programs, and the one that we're going to talk about a lot today is our education program that works with schools and helps parents with resources to help their kids understand animals better, learn as much as they can about the animals in their lives and in their homes and in their community, and to practice the steps for empathy.
That's wonderful. Alex, you have a new game out. It's so exciting. Tell us about Dogs Bond.
Dogs Bond is a positive game where the message comes across that families and friends can get together, get connected with the rescue dog's journey, and empower those real conversations and make a positive impact to the way we talk about adoption and dog ownership.
That's so good. Can you tell us why you created this?
Yeah, I created Dogs Bond for a couple of reasons. First off, I do a lot of volunteer work with local rescues and partner as much as I can, but I found that I could be in only one place at one time. So I wanted to create something that would be a product that could become a platform for these different organizations to benefit no matter where I was in the world, right? And then also, I grew up playing board games, and these are stories, from the kitchen table that turned into the game table, sharing those experiences and bringing that to my, now nieces and nephews, how to create real bonds, real connection, so that we can tell these stories over and over every time, we have a birthday or a holiday dinner and share in that fun.
Yeah, that's so important to get kids and dogs bonding. So I love that. And Nicole, what inspired you to partner with Alex and Dogs Bond?
It makes so much sense. I think, in the past, we've tried to really incorporate a lot of play and play-based learning into both our RedRover Readers program. That's our education program that helps teachers use the curriculum that we developed. A lot of the activities and the hands-on activities we have for the classroom use play-based theory. And so when I heard about this board game and learned a little bit more about it, it just seemed a really natural, organic fit. And so reached out and had some great conversations with Alex, and he was super responsive. And this all happened really quick, which is amazing.
That's great. We're going to hear more about that. But kids really tend to care about social and environmental causes. And you have a wonderful publication called Kind News Magazine. Can you tell us about that?
So this is a magazine in addition to our RedRover Readers program that trains teachers and educators. This is a program, the magazine itself can just be, you can subscribe at home. So the home subscription is only $10 a year, or there's a classroom subscription that's $30 a year. And the magazine has a lot of great articles for kids that they are super engaged with, because kids seem to just naturally love learning about animals. But it also has a lot of hands-on activities, things you can do with your kids, examples of kids who've done things in their communities to help animals, crossword puzzles, places where kids can kind of imagine what it might be like to be an animal. And then also some just great books, book ideas. It's just full of a lot of great content for kids and parents who want to help their kids learn about animals in a really fun way.
Yeah, and when they learn about animals, they really learn about empathy too. So how do you incorporate play as a way for kids and even adults to learn about empathy?
There's so much great research on how play is just a natural way for kids to learn. And because it's so natural and because it involves many aspects of the brain, it tends to be a little bit more ingrained, like it sits with you rather than memorizing the multiplication table, for example. If you had a game about the multiplication table, you're probably going to get a lot further than if you just try to sit there and memorize it by rote. And so I think our brains are naturally wired to think in terms of play. And narrative is one of the most powerful forms of play that we utilize at RedRover with the RedRover Readers program and also Kind News. And what I mean by that is just imagining. You think about kids, like when I was a child, most of my play was imagination. I was pretending to be, a queen and ruling my forest. I mean, I would just step into the mind of pretend characters, and I would play out, a narrative. And so kids naturally do that type of play behavior. And so that's what we try to use in Kind News and RedRover Readers. So we use books in the RedRover Readers program where kids can kind of imagine what it's like to be the characters in the books. And we ask a lot of questions to help prompt some of that imaginative thinking. But in the Kind News magazine, we have things where kids can pretend to be certain animals. So, pretend to be, get yourself into the mind of an animal, literally get down on your hands and knees and see what the world looks like from the perspective of an animal. And kids love that stuff. The younger, the better, especially because it's a little easier to ask. I've discovered it's a little easier to ask kindergartners to get on the floor and act like a cat versus, sixth grader. Starts to be a little bit more challenging. So our philosophy is to get to kids young and really get them to practice thinking from the perspective of others.
That's great. And it really gives them something to look forward to when they get that magazine. Alex, moms are always looking for fun new ways to engage their kids with activities that, just get them off their screens. What are the benefits that you see for kids in playing your game?
Board games is a real genuine way to create those opportunities to have a bonding experience with your friends and with your family. If you're sitting down at the table with folks, you're usually not as distracted, with your phone or something else. And to echo what Nicole's saying about engaging both kids and friends, family of all ages to play, one of the things that we have in our game, as an example, is this rope toy. And the rope toy, it goes to whichever person is the active player. But as soon as that player is done and passes it to the next player, all of the people at the table bark. So we're all barking, we're all creating this shared experience. And believe me, if somebody is on their phone distracted and everyone barks at them, they're back in the game, they're back in the moment. So very similar to what Nicole's saying about it's easier to engage with a sixth grader to ask them to behave or pretend to be a cat or a dog. Our game, Dogs Bond, really invites players of all ages and families to really put themselves into that position. When you're playing the game, and I'll show a little bit of the art here, when you're playing the game, you actually take on the role of the rescue dog that you've selected, right? And we've got 8 different dog breeds that we put into the game that we were able to unlock through our Kickstarter campaign. And these are just the dog breeds that I have the most personal experience with. So it was easier and most authentic to include them. And so, if you've got, your kids and family members playing this game, being these dogs, of course you're going to bark. Of course you're going to want to engage in that way. And because your entire experience is from the perspective of a rescue dog, which is going through that journey of finding their own skills, finding how they match with humans, and finding that forever home, that's exactly the message that we have in our game. And that's why it makes the most sense for us to partner with great organizations like RedRover, where we can use that as a supplement to all the great work that's already being done and help reinforce these messages, like you're saying. So yeah, that's what made it a real easy fit for us.
Yeah, I mean, that just sounds like such a fun game, and I love that interactive part that you're really using all your senses and you're barking, and kids are going to have so much fun with that. So now for the pets, obviously there's a huge benefit, and you're really helping pets in the community. So just tell us a little bit about that.
So we're coming out of unprecedented times and all that other good stuff. So now as we're starting to re-engage and start to interact with one another again outside of screens and in person, I know a lot of friends and family who are going to be meeting and maybe meeting a new furry family member, right? And how do we bring that to different ages, and what does responsible dog ownership even look like? Having those conversations now, right, is so important. And for the pets, what does it get them? Well, when you've got something that builds that empathy, that compassion, that take a minute, walk in my paws, if you will, these are the types of conversation that you want to have, but how do you facilitate it naturally? Board games, right? Something that engages people with play, right? And that's what we're hoping to do. We want to bring gamers to connect with these dogs, these animals that are in our game, and maybe then bring them to rescue. And of course, for rescue, what else are we doing when we're meeting with each other, playing at the dog park, and then we're saying, you know what, let's go, hang out indoors, right? And let's play a board game. So really, it's about bringing dog lovers and board gamers back together.
Yeah, perfect. And it sounds that really inspired you to partner with RedRover.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and Nicole, what about the partnership with Dogs Bond is exciting for Kind News and RedRover? How's that working together?
The idea of imagining yourself as a dog in the game is so reinforcing to the programs that we do. Part of the whole idea of what empathy really is sharing the emotional states of another being, whether it's a human or an animal. And kids are far more engaged and open and ready to talk about having empathy for an animal than they are to like their brother and sister or or their friends even. And so one of the things that we've seen over and over again in the classroom is kids are really open when they talk about animal emotions. And how can you tell when a dog is sad? How can you tell when a dog is happy? How do you know when they want to go for a walk? What do they look like when they're scared? What do they look like when they're fearful and maybe could bite because they're so scared? They love that content. And they love applying it to their own relationships with their own pets, or even if they don't have a pet in the home, because we're really cognizant of making sure the program, as we teach it, and I'm sure the game does the same thing, you don't have to have animals in your home. It's all about imagining and what you would do if you did have an animal in the home. And so we start from that when we're in a classroom. And even the kids who don't maybe see dogs or cats on a regular basis, they're still really engaged in wanting to learn about them. And they inevitably see them. They see them in their community. They see them in their friends' homes. And so they really want to learn about them. And then it easily can apply to, well, how do you know when your friend is really upset with you? What does their face look like? How's that different from what a dog's, body expressions are like? And so those kinds of conversations are really great. But as Alex was saying, they're even easier to have in the setting of a game. So, for our RedRover Readers program and the Kind News magazine, we have them in the context of articles and reading and stories and a lot of photographs. So photographs in the magazine, photographs in the book, where kids can see images of animals doing, accurate animal behavior. But that's still not as much fun as doing it in a game. So that's partly why we're so excited. I think this is a great way to reinforce what they may learn in the magazine or in our RedRover Readers program. And it goes a step further in, some of the activities we incorporate in the Kind News magazine have kids talking together, and it sets up a classroom dynamic where kids are kind of exploring together what it means to be kind to animals, or what does it mean when a dog has a certain behavior, and how would you respond to that behavior? Oh, look, we've got a visitor. He's just so upset they were talking about dogs so much.
I know, right?
Or the cat conversation. We do incorporate a lot of cat behavior in our programs and in our books. Dogs Bond is specifically dogs, but that's okay. A lot of it applies to cats too. Don't worry.
It's true. Yeah. When we were creating Dogs Bond, right, and even when I was pitching the idea, and I'll show you some of the artwork here on the box. The number one question that I get whenever I talk about Dogs Bond, frankly, is why isn't the game about cats? Which is hilarious and wonderful. Like I grew up with dogs, so it was just easier and more authentic for me to put that in. But I think that as a platform or as a system, right, to discuss empathizing, to discuss that compassion, to think about what it would be like to be an animal in this particular situation, right? Where our game, we've done a lot of work and worked very hard to infuse the rescue story with play, whimsy, and hope, right? And these are the things that we wanted to instill in the game and have brought into the home. So if you think about the game shelf that everybody has, right? You've got chess and checkers, you might have Monopoly, you might have, Clue, but a lot of other games deal with annihilating the other player or bankrupting the other person. Our game is about compassion. Our game is about building those bonds and building each other. And yes, there's a winner based on points, but every dog has the opportunity to find their forever home and have that story. And I've found that through every play test, through every demo that we've done, it really opens up people's souls when they talk about how rescue or their animals have impacted their lives, have changed their lives for the better. And I love having that conversation as a byproduct of a fun, interactive, hour that you spend together.
Yeah, it's so true. We need that positive influence. And you're right, there's a lot of the games have these underlying challenging items.
Adversarial style, right?
Stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And I know you're really trying to bring this out into the community with this back to school program. Can you tell us how moms can help and what they can do to bring it to their schools?
I'm really excited about this back to school campaign because with the Kickstarter campaign that launched Dogs Bond, they're all kind of getting shipped out at the end of the summer. So if people order if they order the Dogs Bond game, they will get a free sample of Kind News magazine just to sort of see what that's like and test it. And then if they want to subscribe, that's fantastic. So moms right now can subscribe at kindnews.org, or they can just go ahead and get this amazing game and then get to see the Kind News magazine as a sample. So either way, but we're really excited that in this shipping out of these games, people will automatically get another way to have conversations with their kids about animals, and to do some more playful, hands-on activities to reinforce some of the things they read about in the magazine. And then hopefully they'll take it a step further and tell their teacher about the RedRover Readers program and get even more of this type of content into schools and classrooms. And kind of along the lines of what Alex was saying, kids really light up in a very authentic way when they're talking about animals. So it's just such a great vehicle for parents to just be able to talk about something that kids really love and are really interested in, and kind of get out some of those emotions, that are sometimes difficult to talk about. Animals give us a different way to kind of talk about them a little bit removed. And, in all the conversations we've had with kids, we always ask them, what is it about your relationships with pets that's different about your relationships with humans? And they recognize this really, really early that, pets love us unconditionally. They don't have that judgment. They don't, if we tell them our secrets, they don't tell us what we should do about it, or, they just listen. They're just there. And kids very intuitively understand that this relationship is pretty special. And I feel there's a lot we can learn from those relationships. So having games like Dogs Bond and these magazines, and we also have another app it is a screen. So Mom, sorry, it's a screen, but it does have a cat. So if you're really wanting a cat, we do have an app called The Restricted Adventures of Raja, and the main character is a cat. And there's a lot of cat behavior and cat content in there to really help kids. See, look at, he's all excited. He's back on the screen to tell us.
You can tell play is so important for cats.
That's right.
Yay, cats. Ways to learn about cat behavior and to have those same conversations with your kids about cats as you could have with dogs. And there's dogs and cats in the app, but it's just another kind of play-based way for kids to get this content and for you to work with them in a screen in this setting, but again, work with them through the questions that are embedded in the app to get them thinking about relationships with animals.
And for all of those different reasons that we just talked about, where encouraging play, encouraging reading, sitting down at the table and knowing that you're going to have a conversation with children, our game targets ages like 10 and up, but really some very sharp 8-year-olds have been able to play it. You're going to be able to encourage and foster this conversation without it being like a school lecture. You don't have to call a family meeting in order to start discussing empathy or, feelings about how you engage with pets and responsible pet ownership. So in many ways, our partnership with RedRover is amazing because backwards and forwards, it makes sense. Start with the game, then let them read the kind news with you, or have them read kind news. They come to you talking about dogs, cats, empathy, compassion, rescue. And you say, well, I've got just the game for us to play tonight, right? Or this weekend or whatever it is. So all of these things being together, join us, dogsbondgame.com. And once this takes off, we do have some designs for Cats Bond. So, we'll be able to get that off the ground just as soon as Dogs Bond is, in the hands of our backers and supporting our rescue partners.
So moms, for kind news, go to redrover.org. And for Dogs Bond, you can find it at dogsbondgame.com. And Alex, just tell us about how they can get this new game when they come to your site.
Absolutely. So join our email list on dogsbondgame.com, and you'll be notified as soon as it's available for wide release. And of course, if you're signed up with RedRover, then you'll also get some information, if you want to purchase through them. So that way we're going to make sure those portion of funds are donated directly back to the rescues and support our shared mission to improve the lives of animals. So join us, dogsbondgame.com, as well as Dogs Bond Game on all of your favorite social media.
Thank you both for sharing all this great information about pets and your organizations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.